You are listening to FinTech Fridays, brought to you by the Office of Fintech, powered by the Economic Development Department, Government of Bermuda.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of FinTech Fridays. My name is Andrea, and today I will be your guest host alongside Marcus Wade and Richard Augustus.
Hey, Andrea.
Hey, good afternoon, all. Great to be here. This is the entire Office of Fintech today. We have everybody here.
Yes.
So this is a great first inaugural start to FinTech Fridays. We hope the series will be informative and engaging as we interview industry professionals. But we'll start with the first professionals that we know and love, each other.
Yes.
Right.
All right. So want to go through a quick introduction?
Sure.
All right.
So let's start with you, Rich.
Sure. So Richard Augustus, I'm actually a secondee from BEDC, Bermuda Economic Development Corporation, and so about, I would say, 6 months ago or so, I was given the opportunity to come over because allegedly, I guess I have some fintech knowledge. so no, but seriously though, I have a hobby in things of crypto. And I guess my name was mentioned in some places, in some circles, and I have done a quick, fast study on some of these matters in the earlier days. And oddly enough, I think it was Sherry J who mentioned my name to a minister, and my name got around, and such and such. And then it was like, come on a radio show, and I happened to meet some advisors, did some talks, and so. Over here at the Office of Fintech, I think we have a more focused approach. We have several areas of focus that we'll talk about later on. But I'm here to help with those initiatives, and so it's great to be in the Office of Fintech to help with the initiative that we have going on.
Perfect.
All right, Andrea, you want to give yourself a quick intro?
So my name is Andrea Rochester. I am also a secondee from the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation. I myself, like Richard, was asked to come over here to assist with a few initiatives that the organization had on hold because they needed some additional help. One of which being FinTech Fridays, which we are here talking to you live about. I am the complete opposite probably of the two. I don't have any knowledge in FinTech, so that's where I came over to actually learn the background of what FinTech is, what Bermuda is trying to do, where we're trying to go, and use my skills from BDC to implement different policies and initiatives over here. So I'll let you go.
It's about my turn. So my name is Marcus Wade. I am the FinTech analyst within the Economic Development Department, running the Office of Fintech, which is basically been put together to advance the government's mandate when it comes to accelerating the growth of this industry here in Bermuda. And it's an honor to be involved. I'm so glad that we finally got the chance to step to launching FinTech Fridays podcast, because I've been involved in FinTech for the government since around June 2019. So it's just touched over 3 years now. And one of the things that led to us launching this podcast is the amount of informative and really invaluable conversations that have happened along the way, along the journey to establishing this ecosystem that we currently are blessed to have here, this FinTech ecosystem. And so I hope that this podcast can help not just inform Bermudians of what's going on, and not just to inform the international community of what it is that we hope to achieve as a jurisdiction, but also to push for more engagement following that following being and building an understanding and awareness of what's happening in the industry. So I think that's enough of me talking about myself in the office for a second. Or do you want to maybe take turns and hit off at one of the next topics we was going to go through?
Yeah, so I'll pitch this question to Richard. What is the Office of Fintech's areas of focus?
Well, we have basically 6 areas of focus. One is education and training, and I think the podcast speaks to that. We're gonna that checks off one of these boxes, and also adoption. I think this series will also speak to that as well. At least in parts of the community, we want people to understand the power of this whole industry and use it or adopt it in their everyday lives, right? We also have business development, where we encourage businesses to come to Bermuda. We have communication and outreach as well. And the bedrock, as I like to describe, is the legislation and the policy areas of focus, which is very important.
Yes.
And we'll touch on that a little later on. But that is definitely our focus here in the office.
So I'll pitch this to you, Marcus. What do you think is the goal of FinTech Fridays?
I think I spoke to this briefly during my little background, filling in people on what it is that I do, but I think that the goal has to be to raise awareness locally and then to raise the level of engagement that we have with the community, both here and abroad, when it comes to building out this part of this new sector of our economy. I think that we're blessed to have individuals in senior positions, including members of ministers and the Premier himself. And I don't really want to go too deep into that element just yet. But although we have people who are advocates for this industry, we need to take an active role in sharing what it is that's currently going on and how things can shift going forward so that Bermuda could benefit from the growth that takes place in this ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
And we want Bermudians to be knowledgeable in what opportunities are coming, because there are many that we can speak to.
So for me, I think also the goal of FinTech Fridays is really to just make Bermudians understand on a very basic level what is FinTech.
Yes.
What does it involve? Sometimes we speak so high level we forget that it's some people out there that just don't know. So I think this would serve as a perfect guide to get people to just briefly understand and provide them with resources, as well as allow them to hear from people that may be a little bit more deeper into the industry and can help Bermudians to go from knowing absolutely nothing to actually evolving with the industry, so that when things do go a little bit further and jobs become available, people's not scared and timid like FinTech. What is that? So I think this serves as a good way to briefly educate people on this office and what FinTech is.
Okay.
So I'll pitch this to you, Richard. Do you have like some basic examples of FinTech where people could be like, oh, okay, yes, I didn't know that was a part of what FinTech involves. What is FinTech actually?
FinTech is comprised of two basic core key words or root words, which is financial and technology. And so, I don't know about you, but finance is a very important part of my life.
Me too.
But we have adopted as a species with technology, with the help of technology, right? We have ATMs, we have debit cards, we have credit cards, we have electronic payments going on. We buy stuff over the internet, and so all of this has to do with how technology has improved that aspect of our lives. And I think it's nothing to be afraid of, because we have adopted. Like my mother, for example, she was afraid of cell phones, and now she's the WhatsApp queen, right? WhatsApp voice notes, and we find out ways to use technology for the better.
Yes.
And so I believe that technology will improve this area, improve banking, improve the way money is moved. It makes for a more efficient transfer of exchange, a medium of exchange.
Yeah.
I know during the COVID crisis, right? One of the things, the dirty money, you could get it from the money. But we've already started that process. When I go shopping, I feel real bad because I don't have any change for those packers. And so, how do we address these problems, right? And within the problem, we find a solution. And I think in 2008, with the invention of Bitcoin, it's solving a problem.
Yeah.
And so Bermuda, I think we're poised to take advantage of these opportunities. and Marcus, you alluded to the premier. He's out there. He's a very forward-thinking premier, and he's out there. Not just him, but our other partner organizations, like the BDA, for example, doing some outreach as well to attract the best of the best to come to Bermuda. And so there are opportunities, which we'll get into, for Bermudians to be employed and educated. But there's examples happening right now. We did 2 years ago, maybe Marcus can talk about that. We did a little pilot project with Badali. And you could probably come with the details on that and how that worked and how we're going to improve upon it as we move forward.
I feel like once we should lay a bit more groundwork into Bermuda as a jurisdiction for fintech before we really dive into the specific examples of what we've done so far. And to do that, I'd like to say that really Bermuda's been involved in innovative activities in financial services for a very long time now. And a part of my blessing in being in this position is having access and insight into the history of Bermuda's international business, right? So from captive companies to catastrophe bonds to insurance-linked securities, those are all examples over the past 80-odd years of Bermuda actively being in a place where we improve upon what the current business model is for financial services, and then we showcase how that's the best way to go forward. So as you were saying, Richard, we have many organizations that we collaborate with and that we work closely with to make this a jurisdiction where we can continue to innovate. The BDA, that's the Business Development Agency. The Bermuda Monetary Authority is the independent regulator for financial services. So we have to understand what's going on with the industry for us to actively build out the ecosystem and as a jurisdiction, what it is that makes good business happen in this area.
So how does good business happen in this area? How does one company get to come to Bermuda and set up? Like
what's the process?
What's the process?
So not just to speak to the process. I want to go high level on this one. I think that we could bring in like some of the people that we interview and we have on as guests could help us dive deeper into it. Mm-hmm. But overall, it comes down to collaboration. Really, the success of our international business community is the pace at which the legislators and the people who make the rules communicate and understand the industry's core needs and set up frameworks within which the industry can do good business, right? So that process of the legislators listening to the industry and then establishing the regulatory framework, that is how good business takes place. We provide trust in the business models that are developed within our jurisdiction, and then we export those models to other jurisdictions and run the wholesale side of that, right? So I know that's a lot to boil down, but I think that's a key understanding when it comes to how good business is done. So I think to go beyond that, we have to really speak to what is Bermuda's environment, so we have the Digital Asset Business Act that was passed in 2018. That laid the groundwork for us to make progress in digital assets and the use of those digital assets within business activities, right? So if you have something or you have an idea as to how to improve finance with, new technologies, which I know is an important element in my life, so I'm always got new ideas. But if you have an idea, there's now steps in place for you to become licensed, to build that out. And we could speak to the licensing processes because that's always an interesting
yes.
deep dive topic.
So to keep it brief, what role does the BMA play in this? How many companies are registered here and how many Bermudians are in this industry?
So I can speak to what types of licenses you can get.
Okay.
So there are 3. And they had some foresight in having a test license. So you could actually, you could test your theory or you could test your model with a test license. And then you have a modified license, which is kind of in between with some oversight, with some help. And then there's a full license. There's a full unrestricted license. So there's 3, the T, the M, and the F license. And so maybe Marcus, you could...
So the different types of digital asset activity that we started with here in Bermuda were those who issue digital assets. So it's like issuance, then there's custody is another form of business activity. You have digital asset exchange, Then you have the market makers. So those are the people that facilitate the creation of a new market that allows for the exchange of certain digital assets. And then I spoke to custody. And then payment service providers. That's another element. So the people who facilitate the acceptance of digital assets by vendors or by people commercial entities from their clientele. So those are the main different activities that the Digital Asset Business Act covers. And as Richard was saying, it's really important, we believe, and we've made success as an international financial jurisdiction. We've been successful by laying out what it is people have to do and what risks have to be managed. That's a very different approach to other jurisdictions that makes us competitive, right? So if you understand, you build out the risks in a test plan, you modify it and expand upon the market with a M license, and then you eventually get to the point where a globally recognized financial regulator approves of the operations that you're doing in this sector, and that has value,
Right.
both for Bermudians and internationals.
So that speaks to why Bermuda is a good jurisdiction to be
Because
in,
of the regulation of the DMA.
we have a proven, robust regulatory system, and we just use that same model to build out this
Yes.
whole fintech industry. And so, persons that come here, or companies that come, can rest assured that you're in a good blue ribbon jurisdiction with all the protections in place, and the knowledge or the assurity that you're in a great jurisdiction with all those things in place.
It's allowing businesses to establish trust across jurisdictions in their operations, and allowing for Bermudians to showcase what new models can take place here.
Right.
That's big. So that's why Bermuda's a good jurisdiction, the how our international business is tied into it. Now, in the number of registered companies, excuse me for that, I'm sorry, I feel like there are I feel like it's important to measure the growth of international business back when it was kicking off and compare that to fintech. So it took about 10 years, if I'm not mistaken, for 8 exempted companies to establish a presence in Bermuda. And over the past 4 years, we have had 15 digital asset businesses establish a presence in Bermuda.
Right.
Right. So it's a showcase of how fast the industry is growing and how much value the industry and big players have seen in our approach towards regulating this service.
Yeah, I do think that this speaks to the speed in which technology moves too.
Yes.
It's very, very fast. So
Yes.
it's kind of a good way to compare and contrast
Yes.
that industry to this one. Being that it's fast moving, we have persons that are hitting the ground running.
Yep.
They're here, and we could talk about some of them as a precursor to some of them that actually being here on FinTech Fridays. I know I'm very excited about Stablehouse, for example.
Yeah. Or Circle
Circle as well.
Yeah,
Circle's exciting too.
I
It's
think
starting to come together where we have all the pieces of the puzzle that we need
Yes.
to do a proper test run of exchange. Because
Yeah.
I alluded to that earlier, Marcus, with the thing we did earlier before I got here.
Yeah.
It was in the EEZ, and this goes to back where we come from at BEDC with economic empowerment. We have the economic empowerment zones.
Yeah.
And so there was a little test run done with some success, and maybe Marcus, you can talk about that success, and maybe the next time we go around, we could have much more success. So let the listeners know what went on with that. Be interesting.
If I could take a second to speak to that, we've had a variety of different approaches to how we go about doing testing. See, before the establishment of the test license back in 2021, it was more or less a process of company wants to do something interesting. We line them up with the right stakeholders. We line them up with the Bermuda Monetary Authority, and they operate a test within that, with all of those stakeholders being aware. Now with the test license process, the Bermuda Monetary Authority has more visibility into what's taking place. And so as we see tests roll out for the issuance and use of a stable coin, which we can get into on later episodes, when we want to see tests on how do payment processors, like how do we get away from those legacy payment processing companies and offer Bermudians more options? Because without this innovation, it's hard to see why some of the larger foreign companies will come to Bermuda when, I went to a university with more students and staff than our population is. So we're overcoming challenges that being a small jurisdiction has by providing an environment where this new test could take place, and we hope to see more structure with that going forward.
So for me, it's like I'm hearing you, but as a Bermudian listening, like,
Yeah.
what is this for us? Like, how many Bermudians are actually in this field? How do they get in the field? Like, is
do have
this
some-
industry gonna open up for?
Sure, we do have some positive news in that. Like I alluded to, Bitrix, for example, they have their compliance office here, and I'm happy to report. Believe it's 6 Bermudians that are working there. Now, mind you, I will say that the industry, as far as crypto and crypto assets, this is a new industry.
Yeah.
And I think that, in my opinion, there's more or less a willingness to learn the industry as you go.
Yeah.
Than to have some, because how could you have prior experience
Yeah.
for something that was just created a few years ago? And so, if you have a passion to learn, and a passion to absorb this knowledge, then there's opportunities here for you. And I don't think it's for young people. I think it's for everybody.
Yeah. To add to that, I think that what does this mean for Bermudians? Like, beyond just the opportunities for employment, we need to ensure that we raise the awareness of opportunities for equity for Bermudians, because there are many different areas of this type of business where people have an interest already and have experience already. Like I have friends that work within the insurance industry. InsurTech is an element of fintech. It's just a different branch of it. So we have to be able to show the Bermudians that this is an avenue for creativity and business development, and an opportunity for them to also, in addition to looking at the compliance jobs and the IT related jobs and how those will be expanding as the industry grows, we have to look at how we can get Bermudians involved in developing what's great next. So I know that we have some interviews lined up with brilliant young Bermudians who are looking at the field, and I think that those episodes will help to give more energy into what it is this could do for Bermudians, right?
So I have about 2 more questions. What would you like to see in the future of this industry?
Well, besides the more jobs things, right?
Yeah.
Besides that, I mean, I would like to see one thing about the whole industry. Bitcoin was born out of a crisis of 2008, and I'd like to see more transparency, more ownership, more transparency with payments, and I'd like to see a world where we take advantage of technology. And if you're in Bermuda, I'm sure you're aware that there's companies such as Square and PayPal that's not in Bermuda, and so we have to play catch up. Maybe we could build our own electronic payment systems in Bermuda, and so I think we have a great mix of companies that will probably see this stuff happen very, very shortly. We just landed a digital bank is here in Bermuda.
Yes.
They really just got their license quite recently, and so that's a game changer. There's been a reluctance. Dare I say, I love my bank, but there's been a reluctance for them to deal in this space, and I can understand the resistance. It's a paradigm shift. It's a little bit different. It may be a little risky for them, but I believe if you can't beat them, join them type thing.
Yeah, I see you.
And so I think this new bank, and there may be others, that will change things for the better, and hopefully the community and the wider community can benefit, not just the few. That's my hope.
That's an important point right there. I echo that last one. Getting or creating opportunities for the average Bermudian, the everyday Bermudian, like those who may not know everything about this system, creating opportunities for them to benefit from what comes with the development of this ecosystem, of this industry. That has to be a future goal. On top of that, increasing the amount of Bermudians that this one I would love to see, the amount of Bermudians that actively take part in building out new ideas and get ownership and actually add value to the industry. That to me is huge. Supporting the entrepreneurship that is necessary for us to get ahead. That's what I would like to see.
So I have one last question that has absolutely nothing at all to do with fintech, and that is, what is your cup match team?
So I'm gonna sit all day.
I'm St. George's. Come on.
Wait, Who's that?
Ah, come
Who's
on,
that?
come on.
No. You can't come wearing red and then
And
talk about
you
St.
put
George's,
St.
my
George.
brother. It's all good.
Oh,
I
my
understand. I understand. It's not easy. You guys
my
are taking
gosh.
a lot of licks, but it's all good. We'll see what happens in the
I'm
next
outnumbered,
decade.
folks. I'm outnumbered.
Definitely outnumbered.
Yeah.
So I say this to say I hope everyone has a safe and enjoyable cup match.
Yes.
And our following episode will be with Corey Luna, who is the owner of High Tide.
Yes, indeed.
But between then and this, we do have cup match, which is why I asked you. What are your teams? So may the best team win, which we kind of already
But they know who
know.
it's gonna be.
But
If looks could kill.
yeah. But I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the first episode of FinTech Fridays, and we hope that you stay with us throughout this complete process so that you can learn some new things, meet some new people, and make some new connections. And for any reason at all, you may have any questions, feel free
Just throw them in the comments, and we'll do our very best to get back, because that's what the purpose of this is, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
So thank you for listening to FinTech Fridays.
Happy Friday.